Hello and welcome to The Public Good. This is Sam Magavern from the Partnership for the Public Good, or PPG, which unites over 275 community organizations working to build a better Buffalo. Delighted to be joining you every Tuesday at 1 p.m. on Facebook Live, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Power 96.5 FM and Mix 1080 AM. Today we'll be joined by Bridget O'Brien-Woods. She's the Food Service Director of the Buffalo Public Schools. We'll be talking about farm fresh, local, and healthy food in Buffalo school lunches and the upcoming Chef Challenge event, which is taking place Tuesday, October 23rd. Don't forget to follow PPG on Facebook and Twitter, and of course you can always get great information on our website, ppgbuffalo.org. The Public Good is sponsored in part by Univera Healthcare, real people who really care. You can watch videos from the Public Good, including our 3-minute highlight videos, on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. A few quick announcements for you. There will be a public meeting from Voice Buffalo on October 25th. They'll be talking about moving the office for people with developmental disabilities from West Seneca to a central location in Buffalo, and talking about improving outcomes for English language learners in the Buffalo Public Schools. Their annual public meeting for Voice Buffalo will be at 70 Chalmers Avenue. That's Elam Christian Fellowship, and that is taking place on October 25th. Check out their Facebook event page for more information. On Saturday, October 27th, our friends at the Center for Self-Advocacy will be having the first ever Self-Advocacy Leadership Forum. That's Saturday, October 27th, noon to 4 p.m. It's a collaboration of Center for Self-Advocacy and the Open Buffalo Democracy Fellows Program. It is happening at 203 Sanders Road. If you want to join the discussion or share your story around access to housing, transit, jobs, or education, if you have art related to those issues, call Andrew Markham at 505-414-7549 or email amarkham@centerforsa.org. Check out their Facebook page for more information about the exciting upcoming event from Center for Self-Advocacy. And we want to tell you about the UB Teacher Residency Program. That is a great tool that will help diversify teaching in the Buffalo Public Schools. It provides teacher certification in adolescent education, a tuition scholarship, and an $18,000 stipend for living expenses in exchange for a 3-year commitment to teach in the Buffalo Public Schools. Check out their website, buffalo.edu/residency, and the application deadline for that program is November 1st. So if you or someone you know is interested in becoming a Buffalo Public School teacher, this is an amazing opportunity to get a fellowship that will help you to do that, happening at the University at Buffalo. All right, with that, I want to welcome our guest on the Public Good today, Bridget O'Brien-Woods. She's the Food Service Director at Buffalo Public Schools. I'm going to be talking about her efforts to bring good, healthy, local food to the Buffalo Public Schools. So welcome, Bridget. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we want to start by talking about the upcoming Chef Challenge, which is part of your kickoff for the 4th annual Buffalo Farm to School program. So tell us what's going to be happening next Tuesday, October 23rd.
Well, at West Turtle Academy from 4 to 7, Buffalo community people can come in and try some farm to school produce and meals that will be offered around our Harvest of the Month program that we have with the USDA Farm to School program. It's the school lunch program. And so what happens that day is we sort of highlight the good things that are happening in our schools with the salad bar, the yogurt bar. We have fresh apple cider and grape juice coming in from New York State. So there's lots of things to do. And we also serve New York beef with a Mexican flair. So we have dinner for everyone to come in while they're waiting, and they can go in and see the Chef Challenge that it has 4 local chefs working alongside Buffalo Public Schools students who volunteered to be part of the Chef Challenge. And so those 4 teams are going to create a Harvest of the Month menu that meets all the USDA requirements, and we're going to feature that winning menu in January. But this kickoff event really sort of highlights the challenges of the USDA program, but also brings in some culinary expertise to help us to find recipes that are going to meet the needs of the students, and it really gets the kids involved in being part of that decision making as well. So this is really sort of our welcome back Harvest of the Month celebration, and we're hoping that we get a lot of school communities to come to West Turtle Academy next week.
So really an exciting event with so many different things happening at once. So part of it is this competition that's, I think, sort of like cooking shows on TV maybe, where these chefs are competing to make a meal and judges are voting. Who are the judges this year?
So this year we went from a panel of 7 down to a panel of 3. So we have our most important people is an 8th grade student from West Turtle Academy who was selected by the principal there. And then we have last year's winner of the Chef Challenge, Chef Marco from Marco's Italian Restaurant on Niagara Street. And then we also have one of our board members, Hope J. Those 3 people will be deciding based on some criteria that we have developed over the past few years, and then the winner is announced that evening.
So is it more than just what tastes best? Are there other criteria as well that they're judging on?
Well, I think the chefs will tell you that the biggest challenge is meeting the USDA nutritional guidelines, which limits calories, fat, and sodium. So we've had to ask them to tweak their recipes just a little bit, and they have to incorporate all of the items: the fruit, the vegetable, the grains, and the carton of milk. That's very important. So it's really enlightening for the chefs to try to understand our challenges in school lunch, but it's also a great way for us to realize there are ways to get around but meet those dietary guidelines, but also have really good tasting food. And then the students are involved with the preparation and the assembling and the serving of the meal as well.
And the winning meal, you end up actually using that in your school menus, right?
Right. So the whole point was to be able to have chefs help us create some menus that will be student-friendly and will be something that we can replicate in all of our 66 schools throughout the district. So it's a challenge because we don't have deep fat fryers, and I think every restaurant does. So there's some things that they have to work around, and so they get to see what our kitchens have as far as equipment, and then develop those recipes that will make sense for everybody.
So really a fun event. It's next Tuesday, October 23rd, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the West Turtle Academy on Hurdle Avenue. It's a free dinner. There's a yogurt bar, and of course you get to watch the Chef Challenge and see who the winner is. There'll be games and activities and a photo booth. So really a nice community event that highlights the good work going on to bring good food into our Buffalo Public Schools. So encourage everyone to check that out next Tuesday. And Bridget, this is just one of many things going on in Buffalo Public Schools, and you mentioned it's the kickoff to this year's Farm to School program. So can you tell us what is the Farm to School program?
So it started 4 years ago when we were awarded a USDA planning grant. And what that was it brought together community partners that support farm to school and local economies and local agriculture. And so we worked together with those partners. At the time it was Cornell Cooperative Extension, Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, and the Massachusetts Avenue Project. So they were the first community partners that we worked with, and we developed the Harvest of the Month program. And then we were able to get a New York State grant following that year, which enabled us to extend the Harvest of the Month from 3 months to we have 11 Harvest of the Month that we have marketing materials for, nutrition education lessons, and newsletters with recipes for parents, and some infographics and some trivia so that the students are learning a little bit more about local agriculture and the nutritional benefits of eating local.
So it's a program that brings local produce into the schools, and so it helps out our New York State farmers, but then the kids also get access to this fresh produce, and then not just the access, but they're supporting activities that help teach them why good eating is important, and even reaching out to their parents to try and get them to incorporate these foods into their menus. What are some of the challenges in getting the kids to eat the fresh produce? Does it come naturally to them, or is there work involved in this process?
Well, actually, there is a little bit of work involved. One of our first months was kale, and the second month was Brussels sprouts. And so those were very new items for our students. We had never had them on the menu in the school district at all. And so coming up with recipes that were child-friendly we developed them, but just getting the kids to try something that they'd never seen before or tasted was really a challenge. So we came up with this Taste Test Thursdays, and they would get a sticker if they took it and put it on their tray. But then we would also give them a ballot they could put in a thumbs up or a thumbs down, voting sort of if they liked it or they didn't like it. So what we saw over the course of the 3 months that we were in the planning grant and we had help evaluating that, they really were increasing the number of students over the course of the 3 months that would eventually, by the end of the month, there were more students trying the produce than there were at the beginning of the month, because there was some conversation about it. They were able to give feedback, and then we would say, well, if you didn't like it, this week, try again next week. We're going to have a different recipe. So we tried different things, and the Cal apple salad has been on the menu across the district for the last 3 years. So it is growing in popularity, and it is a really nutritional food for the students.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I certainly remember being a kid. I did not like kale or Brussels sprouts. I love them now, but it's not like it comes automatically to kids to enjoy trying new things. Kids are very conservative about their eating. It seems like they don't often want to try new things. So it's wonderful to hear that some simple things like giving them stickers and giving them a vote can help make a difference in how many kids will try the new foods. And I think you put up like posters and things like that featuring the harvest of the month fruit or vegetable, right?
Right. So in the beginning, we partnered with a local artist, Julian Montague, and he developed our signature Farm to School logo and our signage that promotes the harvest of the month. And those harvests of the month are being used across our state for any school district that wants them. So it's really been nice because, it was grant funded, and, that's what's great about the school meal program is that we share what works for our district and, share the wealth sort of, one district gets the grant, but we can use the results of that across the state. So that's what's happening right now, which has been really beneficial.
Yeah, I noticed how nice your materials were, and I didn't realize that it was local artist Julian Montague, whose work I like a lot, so I'm not surprised to find out that's why it looks so good. You were telling me earlier that in addition to the harvest of the month, your sort of future fruit or vegetable, there's a lot of other fresh produce coming into the schools, and even more this year than in past years due to some new New York State incentives. So tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So Governor Cuomo has enacted legislation that allows school districts to receive more funding if they can reach 30% of their food budget for lunch by getting local New York State products, whether it's New York beef or cheese, maple syrup, fresh fruits and vegetables. Where all the districts across New York State are really trying to promote that program and obtain that extra funding so that we can bring local products to our students' trays in the lunchroom. And so it's going to be a challenge, but we're working on it. And so in September, we featured Harvest of the Month was corn on the cob. However, we also had summer squash, we had potatoes, we had some plums and peaches that were all New York State grown. So we're not able to, get Julian to do signage for all of those things, but we are trying to promote those New York State products on our school lunch menu.
So other ways to get fresh produce into the schools. I know that you've also worked on getting salad bars into the schools. Tell us a little bit about that and how that's gone so far.
So that's been hugely popular, and almost every single school has a salad bar. And actually, even our non-Buffalo Public School district schools that we service, we're actually getting them salad bars as well. And we actually have a few schools that are requiring a second salad bar because they are so popular. And they're, some of our schools are feeding over 1,000 students in a day.
Wow.
So it's, some of those school lunchrooms are pretty busy. And so having 2 salad bars every lunch period is, meeting the needs of the students. And it's definitely a way for students to choose things that perhaps they wouldn't have an opportunity to, or it's another way that we can feature some New York produce, maybe not in large quantity, but we can get it and put it on the salad bar and the students can have it that way.
Yeah, it seems like, just from talking about like when kids get to vote on something, they're more likely to try it, but just when kids get to be part of the decision making and not just have something, put on the tray, it seems like it's always more appealing if you have some choice in the matter. So I could see that salad bars would be popular in that way. And you also have probably every year you have a growing diversity of cultures and sort of tastes that the kids are bringing due to our vastly increased refugee population in the schools. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about sort of the variety in the kids' cultural experiences around food?
Sure. So we started with Meatless Mondays, several years ago, and what we found was that there were a large number of our students that were asking for those meatless items to be Tuesday through Friday as well. So we have definitely tried to meet that need. And what's great is that while we're still trying to find the halal meats that will meet the need of our Muslim population, we are able to offer a wider variety of vegetarian items that are really gaining popularity. And we just did a quick survey with our Inner High Council this past week, and that was one of the positive things that they wrote down, is that they do like the choices that they have. There's a lot of more choices in the school lunchrooms than there used to be when I started over 20 years ago. But it's great, and you know what? Our students are more educated, and they are, able to make their own decisions, and they want to be able to do that in the lunchroom as well.
Yeah, and the Meatless Monday is an interesting example because when we think about the environmental sustainability of the food that we eat, it turns out that eating vegetarian is much better for the environment. So, some people do it for health reasons or religious reasons, but there are also people who choose to eat either all vegetarian or to reduce the amount of meat that they eat for environmental reasons. And that sort of brings us to talk about good food and the Good Food Coalition. So PPG and some of our partner organizations like Massachusetts Avenue Project and Grassroots Gardens are part of a Good Food Coalition that's working on school food from 5 different values. So one is nutrition, of course, making sure kids get nutritious food, but also around local economies, supporting our local farmers and our local businesses, one around environmental sustainability, one around valued workforce, so making sure that workers in food systems are getting well treated, and then one around animal welfare, making sure that the animals in the food system are well treated. And Bridget, you've been going to those meetings and have been a great ally in this effort to bring good food to Buffalo. I know that you've had experience with other school districts around the country that have been doing kind of similar efforts, and I wonder if you could share a little bit about kind of what you've seen in talking to your peers around the country.
So when we were awarded the USDA planning grant, one of the criteria for that grant was to go out and meet with other school districts, and we were able to go out and meet in Colorado, and we were able to hear about best practices from across the country on their farm to school program, but also other efforts that they were doing across the country. And so we were able to sort of zone in on Minneapolis School District because it's very similar size city, very similar climate, very similar population of students that we service as well. So we actually were able to, through the grant funding, take a trip out to Minneapolis, and we saw how they changed their food system, starting with the farm to school program. Then they moved to scratch cooking. So we were actually able to bring an architect out to help us design and figure out a way for our district to go to scratch cooking. And then the next step with that was, the good food purchasing practices. Minneapolis is, a little bit ahead of us on the farm to school and the scratch cooking, and also with the good food purchasing practices. But I'd like to say they're a good role model for us.
Yeah.
And so we're working in that effort as well, and it's great to have community partners because a school district can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And so going to the meetings and finding out what resources are out there, or just what ideas are out there, has been very helpful for me personally as the food service director, to know where to take this food service department and really have a better quality meal for the students.
Yeah. I think I've shared with you that I used to live in Minneapolis, and when our daughters were little, they were in Minneapolis public schools before we moved here, and they were in Buffalo public schools. But I'll never forget when our daughter came home and asked us to make a salad that was like kale, rutabagas, and turnips, or I forget. It was something, it was 3 foods that she had never eaten before in her life, and suddenly was very excited about because someone had come into the school and taught the kids how to make this delicious salad, and suddenly we were eating it once a week at our home. So it was an example of something you were talking about earlier, which is not just what do the kids eat at school, but what do they eat at home, and how if you get them to like good food at school, they can bring that preference home as well. So great to hear about the connections with Minneapolis.
And I have to say that that is happening here in Buffalo too. The kids go home and they talk to their families, and we are trying to promote the farm to school program in the same menus on Saturday at the community schools, and then we also do that for the district parent counseling committee, that we are servicing the parents in the district when they come to our school events, the same meals that the students are getting. And so when they saw the salad bar, they couldn't believe that their kids were getting the same thing. And it's true, and that's sort of, the parents aren't able to come in all the time, so when we can try to reach out to them. And, I did get some feedback on the Brussels sprouts. They did not understand why I would do that to their students or their children. But, some things are more popular than others.
Yeah, I think Brussels sprouts are delicious, but it did take me a while to get there, I have to admit. So you used a phrase that I know is really important to you and that everyone might not be that familiar with, which is scratch cooking. So could you kind of expand a little bit on what scratch cooking means, kind of especially in the context of Buffalo Public Schools?
Well, sure. So, scratch cooking is, taking whole foods and creating a recipe using whole foods. And so, years ago when I started with the district, 26 years ago, the government commodity processing program was really trying to, and the school lunch program was trying to emulate their biggest competitor, which was McDonald's, Burger King, Arby's. And so they went down a path that took us all to processed foods. So, and over the course of those years, the scratch cooking that was happening in the school lunch program that started in the 1940s was really going down that processed food path. And so there was very little left that people were actually cooking from scratch in our schools. So what we'd like to do now, we have over 66 buildings, and it's really hard to find skilled culinary chefs to be able to staff all 66 buildings. So what we're hoping to do is have a central commissary very similar to Minneapolis, where you can actually cook foods from their whole state in a very large process, and have it be delicious and safe for the students to eat. We actually went down to Tennessee, and we went to the Opryland Hotel, and the Opryland Hotel is a fine dining experience, and it's very large, and they actually use the same kind of a cook chill facility to service all of the hotel and restaurant needs. So it's definitely something that is large scale cooking, but it's safe. It's going to be safe for the students to eat, and so I don't need a hugely skilled culinary team in every school building. We'll have it in a central location, and that's what we're finding out that they're doing in Colorado and in Minneapolis and a lot of other places. So because that pool of culinary specialty people is getting smaller, we're going to use them where it matters, and then be able to have the workers out in the schools be able to serve it to the students.
And isn't it a facilities issue as well, that you don't have the cooking space in all of those 66 schools that you could even do scratch cooking in the different individual schools? Right.
So approximately 6,000 meals every day come out of our commissary in a TV dinner kind of style, because there is no kitchen in about 25 of our schools. So even with the reconstruction of all the schools over the course of the last 15 years, many of the schools were still not able to put in kitchens. So this will take care of that. And I mean, they'll still probably have to have that pre-packed meal tray, but it will be, it won't be frozen sloppy joe that came out of the freezer from the government commodity processors. It will be a sloppy joe that we made from local ingredients, and we were able to, cook it in our central commissary. So we've looked at what we can do to our current facility, and then the possibility of finding another facility within the city that would meet the needs of our district.
Because your current facility, your current central commissary, is not big enough to serve the kind of needs that you're talking about of being able to do scratch cooking for all your schools?
Right. So we moved there 12 years ago, and we were still servicing, and we are. A lot of our products are all processed foods. So basically our facility does not have any cooking equipment. And this cook chill equipment does take a lot more space, and it takes a lot more energy. So we're definitely going to either need to renovate our current structure or find a new one.
Yeah. So for parents and advocates who are out there who are interested in supporting the efforts of bringing more fresh produce and more fresh cooked food into the Buffalo Public Schools, this turns out to be maybe like the crucial sort of hurdle to get over, is having the facilities to actually do it. So getting a larger commissary facility with the proper equipment that would be required to do scratch cooking for the district. So something to put into your menu of advocacy opportunities is that Buffalo Public Schools needs the facilities to be able to do the kind of scratch cooking that would result in the sort of food that we're all trying to get more of in Buffalo Public Schools. So we've talked about quite a few different efforts that you've been involved in the last couple of years to improve school food. Have we missed any big ones that you can think of, Bridget, that we should make sure we talk about in terms of things that you're working on now or have been working on?
Well, I think part of the farm to school program sort of naturally leads us to the scratch cooking and then to the better food purchasing the good food purchasing practices.
Right.
But the other thing is that we are trying to do a lot more recycling in our department and trying to get more compostable trays for those TV dinner schools. Right now those are compostable, but we are looking at trying to figure out plate waste. And so we're working with Duville College interns to see how we can sort of tackle that area. And
when you say plate waste, that's what an individual student ends up throwing out, puts on their plate, but then doesn't eat.
Right, absolutely. So it's composting the paper goods and also trying to recycle more in our kitchens and at our commissary. But also we are trying to promote school gardens, and we are the Massachusetts Avenue Project and Grassroot Gardens still is a partner for our department, and they offer grants for schools, and I know a lot of the community schools have their gardens. So those are some learning opportunities for the students and their families. Of course, a lot of them are grown during the summer when we're not at school, but there are a few stragglers out there, and we're still seeing some tomatoes on the vine.
Well, fall is harvest time after all, and spring is planting time sometimes, right, or at least preparing the garden. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that's really boomed. You went from, I think, 0 to quite a few school gardens in just a short amount of time. I think we're right around
30, so we still have a ways to go, but it definitely, takes some people that are interested, and, but once it gets going, then usually you can keep it going with, the more people see the benefits of it.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, we are running out of time, but I want to remind everyone that the 4th Annual Buffalo Farm to School Kickoff and Chef Challenge is happening next Tuesday, October 23rd, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the West Hurdle Academy, 489 Hurdle Ave. There will be free dinner, New York Yogurt Bar, and, of course, the Chef Challenge, along with games, activities, and a photo booth. So a really fun event coming up next week, the Chef Challenge. Next week on The Public Good, we'll be speaking with Jerome Wright about solitary confinement in Erie County and in New York State. It's The Public Good every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Power 96.5 FM, Mix 1080 AM, and every Tuesday at 1 p.m. here on Facebook Live. Bridget, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again on The Public Good. Thank you.